Good morning. Happy Valentine's Day. I'd like to thank Joy for her very warm introduction into our service, Mignon for her words introducing our service with music, and Dr. Federley for her wonderful music as we begin today's service. As we light the chalice flame this morning, I share these words. This flame we now light symbolizes the light within each of us. We dedicate this service and our time together for a deeper awareness of this inner light. Our fourth principle states that we affirm and promote a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. And I believe we have on the screen a copy of our fourth principle. Notice the word free and responsible. They're both important. We elevate truth above dogma or religious or political beliefs or any ideas or beliefs which claim special privilege over us or over others. Seeking truth is a basic part of our spiritual path. We are encouraged not to run away from, but to uncover what is factual, true, real, and meaningful for us. I have spent many hours talking to newcomers to Unitarian Universalist communities and have noticed how baffled members from other communities, other traditions have been confused and baffled by this idea of a free and responsible search for truth and meaning extended to every individual. It's very puzzling for many that spirituality and the religious quest would be married to a pursuit of truth. The idea that beliefs are not imposed, but individuals are free to discover their own truth is really a very deep part of our great tradition. Often you interpret the fourth principle as an invitation to engage in endless critiques of other people's ideas and beliefs with which we disagree. On the contrary, I believe our fourth principle is about using our own powers of thinking, of discovery, of reasoning, and observation to uncover what is really true and meaningful. The times in which we live highlight the special significance of our fourth principle. For we are living in a time in which literally tens of millions of people in our society fervently believe things that are demonstrably false. These beliefs create alternative realities that have threatened our democracy, weakened the reaction to climate change, and blinded many to the threat of white nationalism. So many forces lay behind this barrage of disinformation. Today, I wish to focus on a rather narrow group of forces behind this barrage, namely the influence of social media and news media. And I look forward to talking with you further about this in a few moments. Now I would like to return to Mignon. Pam, thank you for that beautiful and powerful story about someone who allowed us to see into the parts of our society that many of us who are white people do not see and are blind to, and help raise our consciousness about people who otherwise we may not know much about. and may not see and understand deeply their experience. Thank you. Something is happening in our culture and in our society which has never happened before, and which is having an extremely powerful impact on our society every single day of our lives. In our times, the creation of false interpretations of life, affecting even the course of our nation's history, have emerged. Now, lying and collective delusions have always been with us. Using falsehoods to advance a political or economic objective has always been with us. People have always been gullible in various ways and susceptible to influence in negative ways. That has always been with us. What is new in our times is the vast scale of the numbers of people, running into the tens of millions of people, who are subject now and have been subject in years gone by to a sustained and sophisticated program of false information. An assault on human consciousness, that flickering candle of awareness that each of us has, to persuade people of things that represent an alternative universe of facts, is rampant in our society. And it represents an attack and an undermining of our fourth principle. This assault has had a huge impact on human consciousness in our own times. A recent poll revealed that 70% of one of the political parties in our country believes the recent presidential election was stolen, against all factual evidence to the contrary. A December NPR poll found that 17% of adults in America believe, and I quote, that a group of Satan-worshiping elites who run a child sex ring are trying to control our politics and media. Furthermore, 27% of adults in America said that they did not know whether this baseless allegation was true or not. If you add 17 and 27, it comes to 44% of all adults in America who believe either slightly or very strongly in what I just cited. In the past year, we have seen false beliefs undermine response to COVID-19, causing vaccine delays, literally resulting in the deaths of people. We have seen false narratives and beliefs cause a deadly insurrection on January the 6th and nearly topple our democracy. A trial regarding the impeachment of a former president concluded yesterday. A large majority of members of one party could not vote in accord with facts because their constituencies believe things that are false, and admitting the facts and voting in accord with those facts would endanger their political careers and perhaps their physical lives, and perhaps the lives of their loved ones. To be aware of the large-scale power of misinformation that exists in our country now, consider the difference between what happened yesterday in the Senate and what happened decades ago when President Nixon was threatened with impeachment and subsequently resigned. Even people on the side of Nixon pressured him in the face of the evidence of facts to leave his position on the basis of a breach of ethical and moral responsibility. What is the difference between decades ago when that occurred and yesterday? The difference, my friends, is that today, tens of millions of people are under the sway of sophisticated disinformation campaigns. Two major influences created this dilemma. The first is that one of the major news corporations in our country is, in fact, not a news vehicle, but a propaganda machine. This has never been tolerated in the history of our country, but it is tolerated now. And the reason it is a propaganda machine is purely for profit by those who run the company. Second is the never before existing presence of social media, which reaches tens of millions of people every hour of the day. The creation and the promotion of these alternative realities are enabled and incentivized by high-tech companies who exert enormous influence in our society, and by huge players with vast resources who are behind the campaigns themselves. These players may be conspiracy theorists, political opportunists, people trying to build a following, foreign governments, the social media companies themselves, which are trying to maximize profit, and many others. The political and monetary incentives to doing this are huge. People are lured into social media because it is free and it extends the possibility of being in contact with friends and relatives all across the country and the world. But our names and the information about us is taken by these social media companies and sold to companies and groups and political organizations who examine our consumer, political, and religious preferences, and, if possible, lead us down a path of enticements and engagement with their world. Millions of people have been encouraged by this process to go down a rabbit hole of false belief systems. Before long, as someone is drawn into these, they can be in a path so deep that they can no longer see a light of any kind of truth. Huffington Post spoke to 9 people in 7 states in America, represented ages 19 to 46, who are caught in this vortex of seeing a parent pulled into this dark world. The following is one of those stories from a 19-year-old young man from Michigan who we will call Sam. Sam started to see a notice in changes in his mother's behavior around the beginning of the pandemic. She had always been a somewhat nervous person, but she was in all respects normal in her daily functioning and her responsibilities. During the COVID crisis, he saw his mom's paranoia turn ever darker by the week. Though she did not used to be political at all, now, today, she fears that President Biden is a pedophile who stole the election. She believes that. She fears radiation from 5G towers in her neighborhood. She is afraid of being harmed by Black Lives Matter protesters, even though she used to be a supporter of them. She worries that Sam and Sam's brother and sister are being indoctrinated at their public high school. She refuses to take the vaccine for COVID-19, and she believes that the vaccine contains a secret location tracking microchip. She believes this. Sam says she was not always like this, and it just keeps getting worse. Sam moved back to his mom's Michigan home last March, approximately a year ago, when his college closed down. And he quickly noticed that his mom was spending almost all of her free time online, and for hours into the night, she would be on Facebook and later Parler, obsessing over articles, pushing political claims that were false, and she would get into furious arguments over dinner as he tried to debunk what she was saying she believed. As his mom grew increasingly irritable and combative, Sam spent more time in his bedroom. He became increasingly disturbed by hearing her bizarre and hateful falsehoods. She seemed angry all the time, he said, and suddenly very concerned about pedophilia. The group called QAnon was the source of much of the information. QAnon has ensnared millions of Americans and is popular among baby boomers. Over the last few weeks, I have learned that I have 3 relatives I know about who are now adherents of the beliefs of QAnon. And before, I knew them as relatively reasonable people, although having a conservative bent. We're living in a society awash in astonishing levels of disinformation. And one paradox is that these conspiracy theories, QAnon among them, are immune to the claims of reason and objectivity. Joyan Byford, a senior lecturer in psychology in England, makes the case, and I quote, that conspiracy theories seduce not so much through the power of argument, but through the intensity of the passions they stir. He continues, lack of evidence of a conspiracy or positive proof against its existence is taken by believers as evidence of the craftiness of those behind the plot and their ability to dupe the innocent. Why are people disposed or inclined to go down the dark corridors of conspiracy theory? Are there any preconditions that cause it? Karen Douglas, a psychologist at the University of Kent in England, who has studied conspiracy theories for decades, states that people are attracted to conspiracy theorists when important psychological needs are not being met. And she identified 3 such needs: the need for knowledge and certainty, the need to feel safe and secure when powerless and scared, and other related needs. The Washington Post recently analyzed the people who were in the attack on January the 6th and found out that nearly 60% of those arrested during the Capitol riots had faced bankruptcies, notices of eviction or foreclosure, bad debts, or unpaid taxes up to $40,000. The insecurities of life, our winner-take-all economy, our lack of community, our lack of unity as a culture are some of the motivational wells which are drawn upon that bring out the willingness to join a conspiracy theory group. QAnon fantasies and conspiracy theories, some have said, distill and explain an overwhelming, complex, and unknowable reality, and unifies life in a way that gives meaning to frustrated lives. Perhaps so. But this movement toward conspiracy theory is like a cancer and has increased and taken the polarization and made it much worse in our society. Let me circle back to our fourth principle. This tour that I have just given of our current social context can perhaps give us a much deeper appreciation of our fourth principle. Our fourth principle, which we see as a part of our spiritual practice, is a necessary part of our humanity. And the opposite, the movement away for the search for truth and meaning that are real in a way that is responsible, has led, I think, to the disintegration of our society and culture, toward the difficulty of holding things together. Our fourth principle reminds us that we are part of one reality, and that we are called upon to uncover and to discover the facts of this one reality. It calls upon us to observe and honor facts, to value objectivity, to be in love with truth-telling and truth-revealing. In the last 20 years, many powerful people and companies have discovered that there is power and money to be gained in creating false belief systems and sustaining that among our population. It is said that we live in a post-truth society. I hope it is not. And I am thankful that we are a part of a religious community which puts at the heart and center of our faith the desire to be truthful, find the truth, uncover facts, and love what is really real and truthful. May it be so. Amen. And I would like to turn at this time back to Joy. As our chalice is extinguished, may the light of this extinguished flame go into our hearts and minds. And I share this benediction with you from a colleague, Eric Williams. Blessed is the path on which you travel. Blessed is the body that carries you upon it. Blessed is the heart that has heard the call. Blessed is your mind that discerns the way. Blessed is the gift that you will receive by going. Blessed is the gift that you will become on the journey. May we go forth in peace. Amen.